So data is the new property, and access to information, personal and otherwise, now at our fingertips, literally with smartphones and apps that can make the most unimaginable things possible. I mean, there's an app which acts as a mosquito repellent, but the most popular apps are the ones that allow social networking at larger and larger scales, like WhatsApp, Truecaller, WeChat, to name a few. The USP, it's all free. But it's exactly in that USP where the dangers lurk. These apps can be used to get access to all your information stored in your phone. Did you hear that? All your information. What will companies do with this data? What will governments do with this data? How can you protect your privacy in a knowledge economy where internet has become the one-stop for all information? That's what we discuss on the social networks today. Are you smartphone smart? You can tweet us live. Our Twitter handle is on your screens. It's at TSN on NDTV, and you can ask questions to the panelists and, of course, post your comments on the various things that we pick up today on the show. So let's quickly introduce all our panelists for the day. In the studio, we've got with us Jiten, who's the co-founder of the Hackers Conference, and he's a cybersecurity analyst. We've also got with us Subi Chaturvedi, who's an assistant professor, journalism communication of LSR, and we've got with us Pierre Fitter, who's a journalist, very active on social media, and also interested in everything to do with cybersecurity. And joining us on a video call from Islamabad, we've got Fahim Zafoor, who's an internet rights activist, and of course he will be talking about how patterns are so very similar in countries like India and Pakistan, where there are simply no oversight mechanisms. But first I want to start with Jiten. Jiten, so WeChat, that's one of the big reasons why we're actually having this show today. Yeah. WeChat is a Chinese app. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about why I should be worried about downloading WeChat.
You see, WeChat belongs to Tencent Holdings, one of the biggest internet companies in the world, the third largest and the biggest internet company in China. And they have a huge, database of users in India. And the problem is they are not marketing or selling WeChat directly in India. They are using front companies like Ibibo to market WeChat, whereas there is no need of for Tencent to do such thing. They can directly upload the app on Google Play and people can download. It's a big doubt why they are using front companies. Then when it comes to security, we have seen the features of WeChat. It takes away we were able to decrypt the database of WeChat, and we found that it continuously takes away your locations, coordinates, your GPS locations. They're using all the permissions which is possibly available. When an app can get on the mobile phone, they can collect your voice samples, they can collect your pictures, they can collect your database, your files, everything you have on your phone is completely can be controlled by WeChat, and they can take away anything. Now in a era where India is still hunting for the voice sample of Hafiz Saeed from last 5 years, the Pakistani guy, and here you have an application, a Chinese application, which has taken away the voice samples of millions of Indian users. They have taken away photos. They are continuously monitoring your GPS coordinates, which is the biggest threat, because once you have GPS coordinates, you can pinpoint the residence location of a user, the office location.
So this is essentially what you're talking about. It could be a potentially very, very huge security issue. So we want to talk a little bit about how this could really compromise on personal as well as personal as well as corporate security.
I'd see this as a threefold argument, really. It has to be pro-choice. Of course, technology has made our lives better, but you can't imagine the world without internet. As far as compromising security, individual as well as state security is concerned, I think the dialogue and the debate has only just opened up, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. You're not just looking at your phone data, you're also looking at the entire database of conversations, emails deleted, drafts unsent, deleted SMSs. You're looking at where your child has been. I think it's extremely important to understand, and I was in a conversation with my girls, students, earlier during the day. They see this as an absolutely imperative tool which helps them cut costs and messages across quicker. Now, as far as state security is concerned, Internet as a phenomena grew outside the state. This is a technology that's mediated, and we're still trying to look at governments coming to terms with what really this monster is that has been unleashed upon us. I think it's imperative that we need to make ourselves more aware with the technology, engage with it at multiple levels, open up dialogues and conversations. I'm glad we've had someone like Jiten on the show who's hacking and also engaging and building platforms with government and governance structures.
I think Jiten would say that's decrypting. He doesn't necessarily want to be called a hacker. But I'm going to take that across to Pierre 1 second. Pierre, for users like you and me, and all of us, in fact, students of Subi's class, etc. For all of us, this is such a simple way to actually just connect larger and larger, expand the network. But I think while many people would of course buy into the idea of the fact that, look, I don't have anything to hide and I'm happy to have this app that allows me to kind of connect with people at a larger level. But for journalists, is that not a little worrying?
Well, I'll give you an example of why everyone should be worried about how their phones are being used by these apps. The Electronic Arts is a famous game company. They make games that are available on phones as well. This is one very enterprising hacker who designed a whole bunch of games that looked exactly like the games of Electronic Arts, had the same name, the same logo, uploaded these fake apps up on the Google Play Store. Whenever people tried to search for these games, they downloaded the fake app because they didn't check the name of the developer properly. When that app comes on their phone, they're playing the game in the background. This app is using the phone's network to connect premium rate calls across the world on your phone. So you're effectively paying for these hackers to use your network. And that means you're losing money as well.
That's the monetary loss. But what about the fact that, there is a sense of the fact that clearly somebody is snooping on the data? I mean, say tomorrow you wanted to go out and meet a source of yours, and you're communicating that over an app. That means somebody, say for example, WeChat guys, would know exactly where you're going and be able to locate you through their GPS.
And I think it's crazy because, like Jiten was saying, this is a company that's held by Tencent, which is a company that has very shady ties to members of the Chinese, well, more than just the Chinese government as well. And so you're not sure of how this information is being used. If I'm meeting someone from, say, the Defense Ministry or from one of the intelligence agencies, what kind of information on my phone or my laptops is being taken out by these apps and sent across to China?
And let me just bring Fahim in on that. Fahim, we're talking over here about, potential data that the government, we don't know how it's being used, but give us a sense in Pakistan of how information that's been collected has in fact been misused, and the state is, in a sense, a part of this huge massive surveillance that we're now seeing across the world, irrespective of oversight mechanisms.
Thank you for having me on the show. The Pakistani situation is very much similar like India. Privacy is a big concern. Privacy in both Pakistan and Indian society is a very important component, but we are completely unable to adopt this in our digital lives. We don't know about privacy. The people in Pakistan and India are not really aware about privacy, and governments exploit this. I mean, Pakistan just recently we just found that they are using NetSweeper. It's a technology which actually they are using to censor the internet and all these things. And then when it comes to privacy, just a recent example, I was installing this application. It's a torch application on my mobile phone, and what it did with when it asked for permissions, it was asking me to permit them to use my contacts and all these things. Now it's a torch application. It shouldn't really ask to use your contact and personal details, but it was actually. And most of us, we don't really care. We just allow these kind of things, and the data, the personal data, your contacts or your messages, they can use these. These companies can use these data, and then they can sell these data to governments or different governments.
So how can we then assume for a second, how can we even look at the fact that the government is possibly just going to use this information when a torch application is asking you for your personal details? I mean, there are examples galore of how big tech companies have actually just picked up so much of your data and just quietly handed it over to governments.
Well, in terms of operating conditions, when a company which is obviously not an Indian company decides to do business on Indian shores, there's always the shaky ground of compliance. You always have the sword hanging over. You've looked at the transparency reports of large, big four internet companies where they've claimed that they've fought difficult battles. But at the end of the day, I see this as a losing battle if you do not have the public at large or community at large coming together. That privacy is an important issue for us. Take for example your child going out and you uploading cute little pictures. During the course of the day, if this has been done through your phone and if you have GPS enabled, people can find you everywhere that you've been, your bedroom, your children's playroom. It's not just about individual rights, it's also about, as Priya pointed out, it's about the chilling effect that it's having on people and resources. So in terms of what the government can do, you've seen examples of 2 young girls going to jail for liking Facebook status updates, putting them up. You've seen
the government has been prone to misusing that information.
You've seen a lot of dissent being curbed, and that is the scary part. So anonymity is something we need to preserve. We need to fight and uphold privacy.
Fahim, I'm just going to ask you really quickly, of course, India in the last 1 year, we've seen so many examples of people being picked up for activities that they did online, which the government found offensive. Has that been the case in Pakistan as well? क्या ये पाकिस्तान में भी ऐसे ही हुआ है?
बिल्कुल. In Pakistan, we have blasphemy laws. I mean, all of you probably know about this. These blasphemy laws are used on social media as well. In Pakistan, just recently, किसी ने अपनी Facebook wall के ऊपर he shared something which was probably against some kind of religion. He said, possibly it was a criticism. It was maybe a valid criticism on religion, but उसको उस basis के ऊपर उस wall post की basis के ऊपर now he is in jail, or probably उसको because the punishment for blasphemy is death. So सोशल मीडिया को बहुत अच्छी तरह से मॉनिटर किया जा रहा है, सोशल मीडिया को देखा जाता है और कंट्रोल, जैसा कि मैं बता रहा था, गवर्नमेंट इज एम्प्लॉइंग डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजीज, वेरी एक्सपेंसिव टेक्नोलॉजीज. फॉर एग्जांपल, देयर वाज another very important privacy feature. Pakistani government, we don't really know, but we just find out that there is a FinSpy. It's a spyware technology which is employed in Pakistani cyberspace on PTCL servers. But what it is doing is it is violating all the privacy of Pakistani citizens. It can turn on your webcam without your knowledge, without any light or indication. It can record your calls. It can use your Skype conversations and see what you are talking to and whom you are talking to. So all these things are very alarming in Pakistan as well.
Jiten, I mean, he's talking, I mean, of course, there's the blasphemy law that Fahim is talking about, but he's saying that social media is so heavily monitored, and now, internet is becoming so much more synonymous with Google, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, all of these social media websites are now becoming almost synonymous to internet, which means, in effect, that internet is, in fact, a surveillance state in itself.
Actually, we are, today we have a choice to make, that we want to have a liberal, democratic society, a free society, a society with respect fundamental rights of privacy, or do we want to create a country which is full of spying and espionage, which is just where government is keeping an eye on everything you do in your private life, and then tomorrow, trampling your fundamental rights, quelling every piece of dissent in the democracy. So if this happens tomorrow, every sort of dissent will be termed as rebellion, like they do in China, and they will be thrown in jails. Every critic will be branded as a criminal. And this is the problem we are facing now. For like we picked a WeChat. Picking GPS location of an individual is okay, but imagine if they have GPS location of millions of citizens. They are taking away the cell IDs of cell towers. They are able to. China is now able to map the entire cellular network of India, which is a huge national security threat. Take the example of voice samples. You just pick up the audio recordings of all Lok Sabha MPs from Doordarshan or Lok Sabha TV. Just match them with the voice samples you have on the WeChat. If the samples match, just start spying on that phone. Once you know the phone is of an MP or a person, just whoever is like GPS location is around him, start spying on him, because he might be a person of high value importance or a defense person or whatever. Just see if he is sitting out 8 hours in the night wherever he is, that is his residence. If he's sitting somewhere 8 hours in the day, that is his office. If he's moving, that's the way. And last one point, you see, most important point, this company Tencent, which is running WeChat, they are a part of Green Shield project in China, which is the brother of Prism in America. And Chinese government is having all this information. So to say that once all this information is going to China, it is not the tip of the iceberg. I am saying we are sitting on a digital volcano which is just about to explode, and Prism is just an example of that fire.
Okay, so Sibi, if I could just bring you in at that point, of course, Jiten making some very, very significant points. But I mean, he is talking about the fact that there is a need, obviously, for laws if you want to keep it a liberal democracy. But at the same time, when you're looking at, when you're looking at the fact that governments themselves are using so much of that data that's in fact being collected by these companies, what's the hope? What's the way forward?
Well, I would say that we've had a reasonably successful story as far as telecom is concerned. We've had 3 national telecom policies. I think it's imperative that we do not have a distant relationship with the internet. We have to come to forth and accept that it's going to be a part of our life. It's going to contribute tremendously to the GDP. McKinsey has a report by 2015 it's going to overtake, in terms of monetary, pure financial transactions, contributions from medicine, from hospitality and from education. As far as what the government can do, we have a very complex layered system of governance right now. You have MEA, you have DIT, which is Information and Technology and Communication, you have Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and you have Home Affairs involved. During this complex network, a lot of policies, giving me explanations and excuses like it's a bad law which is badly written in bad grammatical English, and that becomes reason enough for people to get away. What the government has managed to do is create a honeypot for people to get hold of all your data, your entire network, citizens' IDs, databases. We're looking at issues of both surveillance from within the government as well as from outside. So why would you want to do that if you're not capable enough in terms of your technology to protect that data? We're also looking at other complex issues of who's making these decisions. And I just want to put this point forward, that if you're looking at any form of public policy for the public, it has to be in public consultation. You cannot sit in silos and decide how you want to go about it.
Just really quickly, Pierre, I just want to bring you in. You know, I mean, we are talking largely about the need and the urgent need, in fact, for an oversight mechanism. But given that we've looked at US, which does have an oversight mechanism, and despite that, we've seen this entire Snowden controversy break out, and, you know, fresh details are emerging of it every few days. Do you think that's the answer?
Let's be clear about the US oversight mechanism and how it differs from India, because in India what happens is, I think it's just the Home Secretary of the states who has to give his consent for surveillance. In the US, not only do they have federal court orders that need to be passed, you also have accountability in the Senate and in both houses of Congress. The problem with the US is, despite having that oversight, you had the head of the NSA go into one of these hearings and basically lie to the people on the panel about what they were doing. I think the exact question was, does the NSA spy on Americans in any shape, way or form? And he said, no. He basically said no, that's right.
But that's okay, because we can't blame NSA, because in America we have this concept of secret court orders, where they have this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and they have secret FISA courts. You got a FISA court order, which is a secret court order, and you ask all these companies to give all the data. Now technically, because of the secret court order, neither the government or its employees or its executive functionaries are supposed to tell about that order, or, you know, the execution of that order. So when NSA was asked this question in the Parliamentary Oversight Committee, he was judicially bound not to reveal anything about this program. But we do not have this, you know, such mechanism in India. We have, you know, Home Secretary has to approve in writing about any this thing. But here the problem is, in American society, at least they are, you know, they have integrity towards their nation.
Of course,
if they are, even if they spy on all of their citizens, they will never misuse that information for, you know, political adversaries or you know, quelling dissent. In India, moment you get any information about political adversaries or some Anna Andolan, you will use that information to quell the dissent. You will use that information to, you know, quell all political opposition. That's the worry we have.
Let's use a direct example of this. The elections are coming up in 2014. You have CMS in place. How do we know that opposition members' phones and emails are not being spied on by the government to find out what their poll strategy is?
It's a failed project, but let's not talk about it. But I'll give you an example. Delhi police floated a tender 2 years back, asking all the companies, inviting a tender, that can you give us a software which can spy on all the telecom companies, all on internet servers and all this thing, and it needs to be installed in the Delhi police headquarters and special police headquarters of this Lodhi Road special cell. Now imagine inspectors spying on your emails or, you know, phone records.
Jiten, I don't want to imagine that at all right now. But so we just really, I'm going to give you the last word before we go. Is this like a lost game, or is there hope?
I see hope. I think when what's at stake, I think freedom and internet. And I think these are both two things that we care deeply about, so we have to keep knocking. And I see hope, because more and more people are coming
together and talking about it. And of course, the social network is certainly one such show which is going to continue to talk about it. Jiten, I'm completely out of time. I'll have you back again.
Only thing is, test this applications. Test this government should set up a lab and, you know, test this Chinese applications and wake up for the next.
All right, thank you, Pierre, Jiten, and Subi, and Fahim from Islamabad for joining us. I just want to leave you guys on the last note. We have just time for one quick tweet, and I'm going to read out a tweet from Saket, which says, "Nothing is free if you're not paying for it. You're the product." So somber note to end on, but certainly room for more discussion on that. Thank you so much for watching The Social Network today. Come back on Monday, same time.